Hello and welcome everyone to Alexa Live. My name is Amit Jotwani and alongside me is Neelam.
Hi everyone, super excited to be here and presenting our talk today, Make Money with Alexa.
Yeah, so what we'll be talking about today is everything that involves in-skill purchasing. We'll run through a gamut of things, starting off with what is in-skill purchasing, what are the things you should be looking into, and a lot more detail into that. So Neelam, you want to give us a quick rundown of what we will be talking about today?
Sure, yeah. So there are three key takeaways that we would like you to walk away with. The first one is what is in-skill purchasing, why invest in in-skill purchasing, and most importantly, what are some of the best design practices that you should be including that you should be thinking when you're implementing premium content within your in-skill purchasing. Let's start with some background first to give you the whole context. Amazon Echo was launched in US in November 2014, and since then, millions of customers have been using and conversing with Alexa in their homes as well as offices. We opened up Alexa Skills Kit, or Ask, in June 2015. Ask is a collection of self-service APIs as well as tools, which makes it easy for developers to create the engaging skill experiences. For the first 2 years, we invested in building foundational technology that will help developers to create these engaging skill experiences. However, there was no direct method for the developers to monetize their investment in skills. With that, we launched our first in-skill purchasing experience in November 2017, where we partnered with some developers, some partners, and created in-skill subscriptions as well as one-time purchases where developers could sell in-game packs. And we received tremendous response from developer community as well as positive response from customers for availability of this premium content. Based on that feedback, we opened up these capabilities to all the developers in May 2018. We have made these APIs, the suite of APIs as well as tools for developers so that they could create these premium content and make it available for customers to purchase. And we have more than a year worth of learning since then that we would like to share with you today so that you can learn from our experiences as well as other developers' experiences and build upon those to create these engaging premium content. So what is the opportunity? Let's take a sneak peek at the opportunity size and how you benefit from that. Just some hard numbers first. We have sold more than 100 million Alexa-enabled devices today, and we have hundreds of thousands of developers which are building Alexa skills for all these devices. As of today, we have over 80,000 Alexa skills with which customers are conversing on a day-to-day basis. How many times have we seen a device or a channel like this reaching into customers' homes? Print, radio, TV, internet, and now we have voice. The wave of change is big, but yet it is still new. There is an opportunity for all of you to ride on this wave and create not only a loyal as well as engaging customer base, but also to create a viable business model around it. And customers love engaging skills. Based on the hard data as well as anecdotes, we have seen that customers value engaging content. At Amazon, we always start with customers. In fact, we take pride in being Earth's most customer-centric company, and we encourage our developers to also start with customers. I'd like to share some anecdotes with you today so that you get a sense of what customers are saying. The first example is from a skill called Escape the Room. And the customer here is talking about how much he actually loves the skill. In fact, to some amount of challenge as well as it's addicting to some extent. And then the customer sheepishly admits that he had to actually buy a couple of hints to get to some of the levels. The second one is, one of our favorites is Jeopardy, where customers love the fact that they get access to double Jeopardy, twice the number of clues in a day. What this does, the customer reaction as well as the ability to monetize, is creates this positive loop where you have an opportunity to directly monetize your investment and reinvest that into creating even more engaging, more premium content, which customers love and are willing to pay for, and hence the positive loop. So Amit, do you want to talk our audience through what are the different ways to make money?
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of making money with Alexa, there's actually, if you think of it, there's two ways that you can make money with Alexa. The first one is selling physical goods and services on the platform. And you can also sell digital content. And most of what we'll be talking today is about selling digital content. But just so we have clarity of what you can do with the physical aspects of it, you can use Amazon Pay, which is a payment mechanism provided by Amazon to sell physical goods and services. So for example, say you have a donut shop and you want to sell donuts through your Alexa skills. You can do that today by integrating Amazon Pay and selling donuts through the Alexa skills. The other use case is, say you have a service that you want customers to be able to access through the Alexa skills. So you have a lawn mowing service, and you can do all that through Alexa skills by using Amazon Pay. And it doesn't have to be limited to these kinds of use cases, obviously. You can sell physical foods such as food. You can sell clothing, flowers. You can also do ticketing. Anything that you can actually imagine in your real life being available to customers in other areas, you can actually do that through Alexa skills also by using Amazon Pay. But like I said, that's one aspect of it. And the really cool aspect is the other side, which is what we call in-skill products. And in-skill products are digital products which you can sell through the Alexa skill that you may already have, or you're working on an Alexa skill and you want to integrate in-skill products into that. And there are actually three kinds of products that we support through your Alexa skills. And we'll go through them one by one. But the first one is one-time purchase. And this is where the customer just buys the product and they just have it. The second is subscriptions. Again, this is something we're all familiar with in one shape or the other. We have newspaper, magazine subscriptions. It's a similar concept in the digital format with Alexa skills. And then the third one is what we call consumables, which is you buy a product and it has some depletion that takes place as you actually use that and go through that skill process. So let's run through the first one, which is one-time purchase. Now, a real-life example of this, Neelam, could be maybe a book.
Yep.
A book that you just bought.
Yep, and you have it with
right. When you buy a book, you just have it. You bought it, you have it, you can read it anytime you want. And that is the similar experience is what we call a one-time purchase. You just bought the product and you just have it forever. As long as you have the skill, even if you disable the skill and you come back to it, you will still have the product that you bought.
Some of the examples we have seen is theme game packs, where you introduce those to your customers and customers have access to those game packs.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good example for that. The next one would be subscriptions. And again, a real-life example could be newspaper or magazine subscriptions. Now, if you think of it from an Alexa point of view, you could have some fresh content that's available for your skill all the time, and you want your customers to have access to that. And that would be a good use case to have them buy into a subscription, which could be a monthly or even an annual subscription. And then finally, we have consumables. Now, the next slide is one of my favorite slides to explain what consumables is. And that is, you have a burger. You walk into a McDonald's and you bought the burger and you have the burger, but you ate the burger. You no longer have the burger now. You cannot just go back and say, I bought the burger. I ate it, but I had the burger, so give me a burger. You can buy the burger again, but that's a concept of consumables, where you bought a pack of, say, 10 lives for a game, and as you were playing the game, you lost the lives, and now you're out of lives, so you can buy them again. And that's consumables for you. Now, one thing to remember is that we looked at all of these physical, real-life examples, but it's important to remember that with in-skill products, everything is digital. So there's no physicality to it. If you're looking for physicality, then you should look into Amazon Pay for that. So just a quick recap of the kind of things you can actually sell through in-skill products. You can do virtual game products. You can create some fresh content into it. And you can also unlock some special features that are only available after you pay for that or purchase that product. So one of the things, we looked at three of them, but one of the questions that I get a lot all the time, Neelam, is that okay, you have these three kinds of products. How do I decide which product should I go for? What is the strategy I should go with? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. This is probably one of the first questions that you will be answering as you start designing your premium experiences. Right after you have decided what content to offer in your skill, it would be, how do I decide what type of product to offer? And the short answer is, let's start with your users. What will they value? What is it that they are looking for, and what is the value that you're offering to them before you decide to choose which products and how to price them? But here are some guidelines for you to get started. First, start with what type of content is it. If it's a recurring benefit that your users will get either through repeated usage or through fresh content, then think about subscriptions. Subscriptions, as you can imagine, it's recurring revenue, guaranteed recurring revenue. But you also need to keep in mind that you have to provide that value for that recurring revenue. Some examples where you want uninterrupted access for your users, like hypnosis or meditation skill, subscriptions would be the right use case for that, because customers buy it once and then they have uninterrupted access for the whole duration.
Right. They're using it all the time.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. On the other hand, if you're offering bite-sized contents, which your users will want to buy it in a context and use it immediately, then Consumables is the right choice for you. For example, you're in the middle of a game, you lose a life. In that context, your users would like to buy it immediately and then use it. So Consumables is the right scenario for that type of use case. There are some scenarios where you have a large catalog of content and you are deciding between, do I do one-time purchase and provide access to the whole catalog, or actually the other way. If you have large catalog, you provide one-time access to a portion of the catalog. On the other hand, you may choose to decide to offer the entire catalog, but for a short period of time.
Right. Yeah.
And it's up to you as to whether if you can divide that catalog into certain sections. In that case, you can do a theme pack based on maybe seasonality, maybe do a Christmas pack and offer it to your customers as a one-time purchase, or maybe just do a 7-day access for the entire catalog. It depends on if the user is getting enough value out of it.
Yeah. That's true. And a lot of it also depends from situation or from the category that you're actually having. Plus and we'll get into a little bit of this, there's some tools that we actually provide that you can actually monitor and see how your products are doing and learn from that also.
Yep. And then the second question that you will be getting is, how do I price these products?
Yeah.
We have some guidelines here for subscriptions and one-time purchase. We have defined the range as 99 cents to $99.99. We have seen most of the developers deciding somewhere between $199 to $399. But then for some of the subscriptions, we have seen as high as $39.99 per year. And in fact, those skills are converting rather well.
Right.
On Consumables, as I mentioned earlier, the value is typically instant and bite-sized, and hence we have a smaller range, 99 cents to $9.99. And you will notice that we have the prices in USD only right now, but we are expanding internationally as well, so stay tuned on that.
Yeah.
On these prices, we do 70%, 70-30 share, which means that you will get 70% of the list price of every sale. Notice that how I mentioned list price and not sale price. That's because we may have discounts. Amazon may decide to offer discounts to customers maybe during holidays or maybe on a Prime Day, or we have actually 20% discount to all the Prime customers. But then developers always get the rev share based on the list price. So there is no extra cost to all of you for offering these discounts. Isn't that cool, Amit?
Yeah, that is cool. That actually brings up a really good point where if you are actually creating a skill, you should never include the pricing, or you should never hard-code the pricing into your skill.
That's a good point.
Because like Neelam said, Amazon may offer discounts, and you don't want customers to miss out on that. And also, it would be a confusing experience if you are saying some price and then Amazon is offering a discount and the customer will be like, I don't know what the real price is. So avoid that and always let Amazon handle the pricing. You can set the pricing, as you will see in the next few slides. You can set the pricing in the developer console, but just don't hard code that dynamically or try to change that dynamically through your code.
That's a good segue into how they exactly do all of this.
Yeah.
What are the tools?
Awesome. So we provide a lot of tools ranging from when you first start to design your product, and then you've created the in-scale product, you've figured out what kind of product you want, you have created it, and now you want to test it, right? So we have tools for testing, and then finally you're ready, it's all ready to go. You've done all the testing and you want to publish it. We have tools to provide help with that. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, we have tools for earning and optimizing, which is where you can track how your skills are doing, and if there's any optimization you need to do, how your products are doing. So let's jump into some of the tools that we actually provide, starting with design. So when you first want to create your new product, you would go into developer.amazon.com, go into the skill developer console. You would go into the skill that you're actually wanting to add the in-skill product to, and then you have 3 choices to create the products that you want, from one-time purchase to subscription to consumables. You would do that, and then you would also provide all of the information about that product. So all of this information comes from this page. You don't hard code anything into the code. You provide all of this information as to what the name of this product is, what kind of product it is, what is a brief description that Alexa will use when she's trying to upsell the product or tell customer about the product. All of that information goes into the developer console itself. And then you would set the pricing. And that range would depend on, like Neelam said, on what kind of product it is. But we have this user interface way of telling you or guiding you what those options are. You fill out the pricing, and then you would start testing it. Now, if you're a developer and you love the command line interface, like all of us do, you would be really happy to know that we have an ASK CLI. So you can actually create the product using the command line interface. It gives you the 3 options of creating the kind of product you want. And then it would generate a JSON file for you. And then you would go into the JSON file and edit the items that you want, just like you would have done on the developer console. So you have 2 choices. If you love the user interface, you can go that route, or you can use the command line interface to also create your products.
There is a point I wanted to mention on the previous slide, which was around subscriptions specifically. So we do have capability for you to provide a free trial for subscriptions, and we have tools for you to set the range for the free trial. For a subscription, typically you can set a free trials anywhere between 7 days to 30 days.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a really good call. So for subscriptions, you can actually set the trial. So the experience would be that when the user wants to start playing around with it, the response would be, OK, I can start the trial for 7 days, and then the subscription will automatically roll. Do you want to try that? So
that's right.
It's a really good call out. And then let's imagine that you've created the skill, and now you want to test it. So we have, you can start testing the product inside the Alexa simulator, just like you would test any other skill. You can start testing the functionality for in-skill purchasing by saying buy premium subscription, or what products are available through the simulator, just like you would with any other skill. And then once you're happy with that, you would be ready to publish it. But before that, when you're actually testing it, you also run into some situations where you're like, I'm testing this, but I want to reset all the purchases I've done. So you can go into the developer console in the in-skill products and click this button called Reset Test Purchases, and that just brings the purchase counter back to 0. So you can start testing it again from scratch, all of the situations all over again, if you're still debugging and trying to play around with it.
Just to call out, so testing and resetting test purchases is with your developer account. Is that right?
That's right. So it is only resetting the purchases that you as a developer are doing. If you have sent out beta invites to other people, that does not reset that, those. So this is really good when you're actually just testing it in the simulator. You're like, OK, so I introduced this new way of doing an upsell, and I want to test it again. So you can go back and reset that, and then it'll just pretend that you never bought that pack.
And we have this functionality through command line as well, of resetting your test purchases.
We do, yes. And you can, if you're interested in looking into that, you can go into our GitHub page, which is github.com/Alexa, and you can find the ASK CLI there as well. And then once you're all happy with it, as you would for any normal non-ISP skill, you would have to go through a certification. So when you make any changes to your in-skill product, the skill needs to go through a similar process where you actually send it off for certification. You give them some testing instructions as to how our testing team can actually check the functionality and make sure that the customer is getting a good experience. And then once you're done with that, your skill has out been in the wild. You can start measuring and you can start optimizing and seeing how your skill is doing. Neil, you want to talk a little bit about the...
Yeah, we do have several metrics specific to purchasing that you can track for all the 3 different types of products. For example, how many times the product was offered to the customers that you will see on the offer graph. You can also measure your conversion rates from the upsell to the actual offer, from offer to purchasing, and notice how you can see the trends also. Right. You can calibrate this to how granular you want to go. You can monitor it on an hour-by-hour basis or a daily or monthly basis as well.
Yeah, a lot of this is experimenting and seeing how your skill is doing. You may have thought that this product would do really well, but then you start looking at the numbers, and then you can start tweaking it and see what the customers are actually looking for. Are there any missing pieces? And you can start plugging those gaps.
And if you're doing some experimentation with changing your offer prompt, you can see whether that particular offer prompt is performing better or not based on these graphs.
That's really cool. OK, so we've talked about the different kinds of products that you can actually use. We've talked about the design or the development tools that we have. One of the other really important questions that I think we all get a lot
all the time.
This is so new as to what are the good tips and tricks or design practices that we should imply especially for in-skill purchasing. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we'll share just a handful of design practices here, and there is a lot more guidance and information available on our Tech Docs pages. So we encourage you to go and to get a list of all those design practices, but let's cover some of the top ones here. The first one, the most important one, is create engaging and fresh content.
That is so important.
No-brainer, maybe a minimum requirement for any skill, but even so more important when customers are actually paying for this content. We encourage you to have refreshed, fresh content on a regular basis, or maybe have some kind of a mix, infinitely mix of those content so that your engaging skill doesn't go from engaging to predictable. There are a few other ways of adding that element of surprise. I've seen some skills adding some kind of surprises, celebrity voices, some Easter eggs, which user just pleasantly discovers those. I've also seen some skills having a personalized and varied prompts, for example, through Amazon Polly, or through some kind of emotional or empathetic connection with the user. But I think the underlying guideline is have fresh content, engaging content, and focus on scripts, focus on writing. In the app world or in the mobile world, you may have hired UX designers, or you may have been UX designer yourself. But now I think with voice, it adds a different context here, where writing is even more important than anything else. So we, voice designers, or maybe even script writers, invest in that skill.
Yeah, absolutely. And like going back to the fresh content stuff, like you could have an API to get the fresh content. You could have a database that you're actually getting the fresh content. And specifically talking about the personalized prompts, there's just even simple things like if you're ending the question with a prompt, as all good prompts should be from Alexa. Even something as simple as like, instead of saying, how can I help every single time, you can actually randomize those responses. So she's saying different things, so it seems more natural. A lot of this just goes back to, is it a natural conversation that you're having? And the way to have a natural conversation is that when you and I are having a conversation, I'm not going to say the same thing over and over. I will do different prompts, and I will give you fresh perspective and fresh knowledge and fresh content. So.
The next 3 recommendations and guidelines are all around how and where do you place your offers. These are specifically talking about purchase offers. So there are 3 slides I'll be going through. The first one is around placement. Second one around frequency, how often do you place those offers? And third one is around crafting those messages. So let's start with the placement. And the first golden rule around offers is context. Don't forget the context. Out of context offers can sound like advertising, and not many users may like that kind of advertising.
Nobody likes to be sold.
Yep.
Nobody likes to be sold.
For example, a user just lost a life in a game. That may be the right point to introduce your premium content for that extra life. Or maybe user has run out of a content and reached a certain level. Then that may be a good place for offering the premium level in the game. So just do not forget context. The second one may not seem intuitive is avoid hiding your products. Looking for your products should not become a game in itself for the users. They may not like to go through multiple levels and hoops to get to your product and then enjoy those content. On the other hand, though, should not be in the face. As soon as you start the skill, without any context, if you just introduce your premium content, that one, it may put off users, and second, they may not even understand the value of the product.
Right.
So my next point is, offer the product after demonstrating the value. What is it that you are offering to the users? One way to do that may be offer a complimentary hint if you are in a trivia game. Users would understand what the hint offers to them and then actually offer the product for purchase.
Yeah, that's really important. So it sounds like there's a balance to be kept between not being like in your face. I've just opened this skill. Like, why are you selling me this? Versus I've played this for like 40 minutes and I didn't even know that there was a product that existed that I could have bought that could have made this game even more interesting to me. So it sounds like there's finding some balance.
And yeah, that's why I'm saying place offers thoughtfully.
Yeah,
there is no silver bullet or there is no single formula for this. But you have to think about what makes sense in your skill and design accordingly.
Yeah.
Speaking of formula, I want to talk about offers without interrupting. See how I mentioned here dynamic logic, and this the reason we try to call out this is have a dynamic algorithm to how often you are presenting these offers to your users. For example, if they have played the game just 2 times, would it make sense for them to get an offer? If they have said no to an offer just now, should you be presenting the offer to them immediately? Probably not. So have some kind of dynamic logic, dynamic algorithm based on how much user has used the skill already, how often do they use it, did they already decline the offer a couple of times before? So have that kind of algorithm for presenting your offers. Another point here is avoid multiple offers in the same session, especially if it interrupts the game, especially if it interrupts the skill experience itself. And one way I like to think about it is customers should not spend so much time just navigating and purchasing the product than actually using the product. So for example, if you're offering hints for your trivia game, try to offer a pack of hints rather than one hint at a time, which they would quickly run out and then they would have to buy it again.
Right. And this is like, if you look at it from a developer point of view, so if you're a developer and you're trying to implement some of these best practices, a lot of this will come down to doing some kind of persistence. Like you have to remember the context and you have to store it somewhere. So next time the user comes in, you have some bit of context that, oh, I offered them this product 3 days ago, they rejected it. So maybe I should not do this one again, and I have the subscription available. Maybe they'll be more interested in this. Maybe they'll find more value in this. And the last time I offered them, they were in this specific game situation. Let me try some other. So a lot of this will come down to using session attributes, for example, and then storing them in your database, and then coming back and using all of that context information.
And the last one, I mentioned this earlier as well, crafting your messages thoughtfully is super important. Avoid misleading the customer into believing something that your product does not offer. To avoid that, use verbiage that may be annoying or even pestering the customer. Customers may be more sensitive to how you offer the product over voice versus what they see on the screen. So there is that nuance here that comes with voice experiences that you have to pay special attention to. I mentioned this earlier as well, demonstrate value. So talk about the benefits of the product first and then offer them for purchase.
Yeah.
And again, a reminder, invest in quality scripts, invest in designing the prompts as well as the language that you would be using in your skill engagement, skill experience, especially when it comes to the offer prompts.
Yeah.
And I have some examples here, some interesting ones.
And a lot of this actually goes back to, we talk about this all the time, is that the way we write is not the way we actually talk. Right?
Okay.
And that is generally, when you're actually creating skills, writing the scripts, it's always a good idea to actually say that to another person.
That's a very good point, yes.
And that's something you should do, like, generally for skill, but that is also so important when you're actually presenting an offer to buy something, right? The way you would talk to someone would not be the way, your first instinct to write something would not be the same as you would want to actually, when you're actually saying it live. So pay attention to that when you're actually writing those scripts also.
And it would depend on the persona of the skill as well.
Absolutely.
If your skill is just informational, you may want to maintain a very neutral and educational tone. While if it's a game, it may have a different character of its own.
Absolutely.
And that, yeah, this is, I think, right
place
to introduce this. You're in a game, you lost a life, and your skill says you're about to die. Would you like to buy an extra life? Completely factual.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it, and it gives the user straightforward what exactly the offer is, what exactly the product is offering. However, if your skill has a character, you may want to do something like this, maybe. This is an example from one of the choose your own adventure skill called Yes Sire, where a user just is navigating an empire, and there are a few different characters in it, and user's wealth has dropped to 0. Now, what the skill says is, instead of saying you're going to die in this game, it says that your wealth has dropped to 0 and emperor will be outraged, and then introduces a new character in the skill. That, do you like to talk to the banker? He may secretly restore your wealth for a small fee. Subtle as yet introduces the more character to the skill. And then asks the user, do you like to talk to the banker, Rizzoli? Right. After the user says yes, then it's a standard offer with the product, the pricing, etc.
Yeah.
But see the difference between these two options?
Absolutely.
Both are factually correct, but one has more character than the other.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. It just feels more integrated with the skill. Exactly. It doesn't feel like, and I think, like, if I remember this right, the option A was actually in Alexa's voice. Option B, the way Yes Sire has actually done it, is that they've actually taken this one step further, where they're using an Amazon Poly voice for this entire experience. So that's even more integrated into the character, where you're having this, you're playing this game, and this new character gets introduced. It's only the cell actually that is in Alexa voice.
That's right.
All of this stuff that you see is actually on Amazon Poly, which is even further along the lines of making it more integrated with the character.
Yep, that's true. And the last best practice for today is handle transitions gracefully. And this is very important, especially as the control goes back and forth between your skill and Amazon purchasing experience. It's very important to handle those transitions carefully in the right context. After the user has made a successful purchase, the control will go back to your skill. And it's important to call out what you just bought, describe the benefits, as well as if there are any limitations in terms of the usage or the timing or the availability of the product, and acknowledge that the user has bought that good and it gives them that extra power or extra capability. On the other hand, if the user declines the purchase, I would say that these messages are even more important, even with a high, let's say you have 30% conversion rate, which means that 70% of the users are still saying no to your offer.
Right.
And that's why it's more important to handle those declines gracefully. Same with failures. If the user actually wants to purchase, says yes to the purchase, but for some reason there is a payment failure, how do you handle those transitions? So pay attention to successful messages, as well as declines and failures. And some simple examples here to make that point. In this specific skill, user is going into a war, and the skill offers a new shiny and powerful sword for purchase. And user says, in the first scenario, user says yes. The skill says, congratulations, you have acquired the shiny and all-powerful sword, and now you're ready to start your expedition and conquer the enemy land. On the other hand, if user says no, the skill is saying, okay, that's fine too. You are actually brave to go into the war without the sword.
Yeah. That's really, really good way of doing it. Like, it doesn't matter if they accept or reject. You just need to make them feel comfortable with the choice they've made, and get them back on track as to whatever they were trying to do. Just continue on that journey along the lines. All right, that was really great. So let's do we talked about a lot of things. Let's do a quick recap of everything that you need to know about in-scale purchasing.
Yep. So earlier, Amit talked about different ways of making money with Alexa skills. We briefly went through how Amazon Pay helps you make money by selling physical goods and services. And then we got into details of in-skill purchasing and different types of in-skill products that you can offer in your skill. One-time purchases, subscriptions for recurring benefit, recurring products, and consumables, which you would buy, deplete, use, and then may have to buy again. We also went through several tools which would help you design your skills, code your skills, test, publish, and then monetize, actually measure and optimize those. What else?
Right, so that was everything that you would need while you're actually planning and building your skill. And then we talked about the best practices for in-skill purchasing. We talked about choosing the right monetization model, how you should choose between the three kinds of products that we have, between subscription, one-time purchase, and consumables, how it would depend on the kind of skill you're building, but always remember that make an upsell where you can find the opportunities, but again, finding that balance between making an upsell quickly, early enough, or really waiting on that. This is probably the most important one that stood out for me, was that always make sure that you have engaging and fresh content. There has to be, and I think this is especially true for subscriptions.
Yep,
if a customer is paying you every month or on a monthly basis, you want to make sure that you're always giving them the freshest of content. And that could be API calling, that could be some database calls you're making, or just even greetings that you're actually giving them. And then placing your offers contextually and thoughtfully. Again, like going back to using session attributes, database, where you're actually tracking where the user was, where the customer was, and then placing them appropriately. And also think about these scripts that you're actually writing, and make sure that those actually sound good when you try to present it to your friend. And then we talked about how you should present the offer without interrupting. Nobody likes to be sold, so always be mindful of not interrupting the flow. They should always be made where the purchase can actually help them achieve what they're trying to do. Otherwise, it just seems like, okay, it's a bit salesy. I'm getting interrupted for this. I don't want to do this. And focusing on writing quality. We've all been, or most of us have been in the mobile and web app days, where we've done all of the developer is basically just building the stuff. There is a separate team of designers that actually does the stuff. It's
with
something
with the focus on the UI,
right?
Not necessarily on the words on the screen.
Exactly. Like if you, I say this often. If you leave it to a developer, like myself, if I'm just left to myself to build these skills with no insight into, I think I've improved with all the insights that I get from people like you internally. But if you leave it to me, I would have like error messages all over. It's like, okay, 404 or whatever, right? But that's not a good user experience. That's not a good voice experience. So you should focus on writing quality and make sure you have some good writers on your team who can write these scripts for you. And then finally, what good is anything if you cannot measure it? And you cannot optimize based on the analysis that you've actually done from
You
that.
can't improve what you can't measure. So
Absolutely.
keep close attention on the metrics that we have and focus on how your skill and how your in-skill purchases are performing, and see what are the different ways that you may be able to improve upon those with all the other guidelines that we have for you.
Absolutely. So those were some of the best practices we talked about. There's obviously a whole lot more that you can actually read up on. And one of the, if you are taking a screenshot, if you're taking your camera, if you have a camera in your hand, this is probably the slide I would take a picture of. So you can go to alexa.design/ISP-promotion. Now, this is a blog post written by Paul Kutzinger. And what we talk about is that there are ways that you can make your skill eligible for promotion by Amazon. So there are a few steps you should make sure that you actually are doing with your in-skill product. And we'll talk more specifically about these things in a session later on, where we do a code deep dive into how you can build the Alexa's in-skill product into skills. But this is a really good read. If you want Amazon to help you out with the promotion, please check this out. And with that, we thank you for your time. We hope you enjoyed this session on Alexa Live. We are really happy to kick off this monetization track. There's more sessions coming. There's more code deep dives. So we hope you enjoy that. And again, signing off, I'm Amit Jotwani. And
I'm Neelam Sabu, Product Manager with Alexa.
Cheers, guys.
Don't forget to take the survey and enter the raffle.
Please do that.
Yep. Thank you.
All right.